people. Hang on, got it. It was a puzzle for the Europeans, and they came up with a couple of names that stuck. One of them was from the Byzantine Greek. Remember, the Byzantine Empire was Christian and the general language was Greek. And there was a Christian sect at that time in the empire called the Manichaeans. And they were very exclusivist. If you weren't a Manichaean, stay away. So they got the nickname of the don't touch people. Well, our traditional culture is like that too. We don't encourage socializing with what we call Gaje, non-Romani people. And so the same nickname stuck. And the nickname was Atsingani, which in medieval Greek means don't touch. And that gave rise to Tsigan, Tsigoina, and so on. The other one that stuck was the idea that we had somehow come from Egypt. So we were called Egyptians or Gitanos or Gita. And it stuck too. And this is where the English exonym comes from. But we are not from Egypt. So in the same way that people refer to Native Americans as Indians, it's based on a mistake, historically a mistake. Why the stereotype happened, we have to go back to the time of the Industrial Revolution that changed society and turned Western European cities, especially, into horrible places. Just read Charles Dickens' accounts of early Victorian and pre-Victorian Britain. And there emerged a kind of angst for pre-industrial times when things were rural and agricultural and the air was clean and so on. And if you look at the art and the poetry from this time, it all reflects that. It's meadows and shepherdesses and what have you. And somehow the gypsies, in quotes, represented the unspoiled children of nature. And so when you look at the Victorian literature, gypsies show up all over the place and become the sort of icon for the children of nature, the pre-industrial people who still live in the country, who still catch rabbits and pick berries and so on, and live a simple life, and then sing and dance in the evening, and live in wagons and don't wear shoes, and a very attractive picture for an escapist urge. While this was happening, the actual Romani population had no idea. They couldn't read. Most of us still cannot read. They just didn't know that they were being recreated in the non-Romani world. Who we were, where we came from, was still a problem. And the very fact that our identity and origins were vague allowed people to manipulate it, make it be whatever they wanted. So fantasy, of course, projection, wild gypsy women, Carmen's, what was the French one? Esmeralda. These fed into pretty much a white male fantasy. And the author, the composer of Carmen, never met a Romani person, let alone a Romani woman, in his entire life. But he created this fantasy female. And I have to say, I love the music of the opera. I don't care for the portrayal, but I certainly love the music. And spin-offs, because Carmen has become so many other women, Black women, Indian women, all kinds of Carmens besides the one we're talking about now. Why we don't care for the word gypsy? First of all, it's wrong historically. We're not Egyptian. But more than that, it is applied to so many socially defined groups, not ethnically defined, but socially defined groups, such as Irish travelers, for example, who have nothing at all to do with us. Most Americans still interpret the word as though it refers to a behavior. So
a wanderer, a nomad.
A
right?
nomad. We talk about retirees with the Winnebagos. We have books about retired gypsies, and they're not Roma. There are gypsy scholars who change jobs from university to university. There are gypsy cops who do the same thing. None of that helps our image. And it's extremely difficult for us to be taken seriously. We have awful problems in the world, serious, serious problems. We were the only other people besides Jews who were the victims of the final solution. We were the victims of genocide, just as the Jews were. No other victimized or targeted population in the Holocaust were the targets of a plan of extermination, only Jews and Roma. Slavery of our people lasted for over 500 years. Laws against us still exist in some counties in the United States. If you get the book I mentioned earlier, I list a number of state laws and county laws forbidding us to stop anywhere. These are serious problems for us, but our problems can't be taken seriously unless we as a people are taken seriously, which means we have to get rid of the stereotypes.
Yeah. I read recently something about the political party that is the ruling political party in Hungary, and these oppressive laws still being enacted and talked about very openly in terms of exterminating the Romani, as you say, as recently as the 2000s and the 2010s. So this isn't a distant problem, as you say.
Oh, no, not at all. And now this is very disturbing. In the city of Brasilia in Brazil, the police are in an organized way arresting and shooting the Romani population. And there are probably more Romanis in Brazil than there are in this country. We have about 1 million of us in this country. Quite a lot in Texas.
So those stereotypes of the Romani people, the literary stereotypes that Carmen is drawn from in Prosper Mérimée novella, mm-hmm. Fortune telling and cards, smuggling contraband, dancing in taverns, all these things that Western European American culture thinks of when they think of that. How you were mentioning that these stereotypes are just kind of created. How did they come about? And is there any at all reflection of Romani, maybe not culture, but reality of the 19th century or earlier?
Absolutely. Stereotypes are what they are, but they generally have some basis in truth and then become elaborated upon. Theft, we have subsistence theft in our history as a result of being refused service. In Europe especially, everywhere, refused service. And you're going to steal food for your children if you cannot purchase it. The kind of, if we see theft as a crime, then let's compare it with white-collar crime, which is non-existent, rape, murder, pretty well non-existent. Theft, yes, and I will defend that as a necessity. Fortune telling, yes, this is a source of income for very many Romani American families. Why? Because if you study our history, you will see that we were not allowed to stop anywhere. This has given rise to the image of the wandering gypsy. Wandering suggests that you have a choice. It's a leisurely thing to do, to wander. But being moved on is not really wandering, it's being moved on. And we have case after case historically of whoever come in, the equivalent of the police or soldiers or whatever in Europe, would destroy wagons and destroy things. If you were a metal worker, which is one of our traditional means of income, if you had a forge, which you need, it would have to be transportable. But if it were destroyed and you couldn't take it with you, there goes a means of income. But if you were to tell fortunes, you didn't need equipment. At best, a deck of cards. You look in someone's hand. It was a transportable means of income, which would also lend itself to encouraging the idea that these fortune-telling gypsies had some sort of mystical ability, magic ability, which then leads itself to curses and love potions and all of that, which were all picked up on in the European literary tradition, especially, and journalistic tradition. Fortune telling is a well-respected profession in India. It is not well respected in the West. Nevertheless, kings and presidents have had their fortune tellers, and I'm sure some of the people listening to us now check the horoscopes in the newspapers still. It's very easy to exploit and gain an income from people who want their fortunes told. They want to know about their luck, their health, and so on. So yes, this is very real. Yeah. But there are also people like myself.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Hancock, for this history and this background. I think it really gives us a great context for the opera and for the character of Carmen. We're very pleased to be welcoming also tonight Carolyn Spruill, who is going to be our Carmen this fall. So welcome, Carolyn. want to pose the same first question to you as well. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of how you became an opera singer and ended up singing the role of Carmen on our stage?
Sure. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you. So yeah, I'm Caroline. I'm a mezzo soprano. I'm from Canada originally, from Montreal, Canada. And I started singing when I was like 4 years old. I kind of knew I wanted to be a performer and a singer since I was a child. And did all the training, came down to Houston for my master's degree at Rice University, and then was in the Houston Grand Opera Studio and actually premiered in this production of Carmen singing Mercedes, her friend, back in 2014. And now I'm super thrilled to be here singing Carmen.
That's wonderful. So, given all this history and background that we just talked about, what do you think that how do you think that informs your character as Carmen? What do you take away from that as a singing actress?
Yeah, that was fascinating. Thank you so much. I didn't know so much of that. And I think, um, well, it gives me a lot of food for thought, but I think the first kind of thing is knowing that it's all a fantasy kind of like this whole world that's created. It kind of gives me more opportunity to like just really go for that it doesn't have to be uh, grounded in that it's a story. It's a made up story. It's a made up character, you know. Um, yeah. Uh,
Yeah. So much of what we're talking about in the series and tonight for the rest of the event is going to be, these character choices that these characters make on stage, and so Carmen, they're different choices you can make as a singing actress, but they're also choices, by virtue of opera that are seemingly made for you in the music. What how do you make an acting choice as a singing actress? What choices are made for you by the music? What is it about Carmen that kind of sets all these events into motion?
yeah. So I think so much comes from the music, and a lot of it is largely instinctive. It's not something I really analyze or think about, but you hear a certain chord or a certain instrument playing something, and it makes you react in a certain way, it makes you move in a certain way. There's this great quote from Maria Callas that she used to talk about Tullio Serafin, the Italian conductor, so that he gave her this advice saying, like, if you ever want to find a gesture or anything acting wise, just listen to the music, like with your soul and with your mind, and you will know how to move. And I think, that's so true. And then of course also Carmen is Carmen, but like for instance in this production, it's always different. The world that is chosen for this production and the world that we're in, we have like wonderful dancers and wonderful energy on stage. So it's all kind of in reaction to that, and like how do I move in this particular world of this production. Yeah.
Do you think there's a particular choice that Carmen makes in the opera that
Oh,
kind of sets everything into motion?
yeah. So when we first see her, she walks into like the town square, and all the men are there paying attention to her. They're like, "Here is Carmen," and there's this one man, at least in our production, that's sort of sitting to the side, not paying attention to her, and she's fascinated by him. Like why is he? Um, uninterested in her. And so she has this beautiful flower in her hair, and she takes it out and she throws it at him. Um, and then I think that's really like the first choice. Then, subsequently she gets arrested and convinces him to let her escape and to go to jail for her. And that really sets everything into motion.
In your interpretation of Carmen, why do you think she makes that choice? Why do you think she throws the flower to Don Jose?
I think again, it's that he's different. There's something about him, and I love in this production. He's kind of, well, it's a little dark, but he's there polishing a gun, and he looks kind of dark and different and serious, and all of the other men are just like, please choose me. And this is a challenge for her. I think she loves that. Yeah.
The challenge. That's really interesting. I like that. I'd love to maybe bring Dr. Hancock back in and kind of just get your reaction to this conversation so far. What's going through your head? What reaction do you have to Carmen and the choice she makes in that first act?
Well, I'm shaking my head. First of all, Carolyn from Montreal will be a beautiful blonde Carmen. Yesterday, we finished a 3-day workshop from Montreal on translating formal official documents into our language. And had I known that you were from there, I could have roped you in to listen to what was going on.
Yeah, wow.
Also, I was a teenager on Vancouver Island, so we have that little thing going on. However, fundamental to Romani identity is the fact that it's not who we are, it is who we are not, and we are not gaje. In Spain, that word is payo. I don't know if you know that word in the Spanish Romani. It means somebody, a white person who is not a Romani person. You cannot socialize with payos, with gaje. So the fact that this Romani woman is flirting with a gajo, with a payo, is totally against our culture. Similarly, we have very strict rules about cleanliness and the preparation of food and so on. And the table dance is anathema in our culture. You would not put your feet on the table where you eat. But none of this was known or understood in the creation of this story. In the years that I taught at UT, we would bring Romani performers to Texas, big names. They would perform in the Bass Concert Hall and wonderful stuff, musicians, dancers, the whole thing. But before each performance, I would go out in front of the curtain on stage and tell the packed auditorium, you're going to love this evening, but please do not think that what we are is singing and dancing. It's what we do, but it's not who we are. Our day-to-day problems, in Europe especially, more so than in this country, are horrible. In Spain, horrible. They are trying to get our children into school in Spain, and the Spanish people are piling up car tires in the road and setting fire to these rubber tires to prevent the Romani families with their children from leaving the ghettos where they are forced to live. This is the reality. So while Carmen is a fantasy, the audience should know that it is a fantasy. It does not represent the Romani reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. Yeah. I want to turn now to my co-host, Emily Wells, bring her on to introduce the next segment of our evening.
So we have had some wonderful cultural, historical context around the Roma people, and also some wonderful insight into playing the role of Carmen from Carolyn. And so we want to pose the question to you, our participants this evening. We talk about this choice that Carmen makes right at the beginning to go for the darker figure, the one who is ignoring her, the one who is not paying attention and not engaging with her in the town square when she has all eyes on her. And in that moment, she makes a decision that has a ripple effect throughout the rest of the opera. What if she didn't make that choice? What if there was another choice available to her? So this is where we're going to send you all into a couple breakout rooms. I want you to pick one person to be a reporter and take some notes on the conversation that you have in your breakout room, and then report back to the group and share with us what different choice maybe Carmen could make in that moment and how that might trickle out throughout the rest of the opera. So this is where we play What If. And I think we'll just put that prompt in the chat, and we'll take about 15 minutes in the breakout room for you to have a discussion. And I think Jeremy and Carolyn, you're going to pop into various breakout rooms and visit our participants and see how they're coming along with their ideas of what Carmen might do instead. So, Chastity, I think we're ready to send folks to the breakout rooms. We'll see you in 15 minutes.
Emily?
Yes, sir.
I am going to have to leave you now. Let me just mention quickly that Wells is one of the biggest Romany family names in South Texas and Louisiana.
No kidding.
No kidding. All right.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Hancock. We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for this. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay. Sure, we got a few more heading to breakout rooms.
I only saw the first part of that second message you sent me because
that's okay.
I'm on my phone. Because,
for reliable internet.
Well, I'm noticing a theme. As soon as Dr. Hancock's video came on, it kicked me off. So is it, and you're on the HEO network. So this is like 3 for 3 when somebody not on the HEO network comes on Zoom. I'm kicked off the internet. I still don't have internet on my computer right now.
That's insane. Okay, I'm gonna go copy the prompt into the breakout rooms. I'll be back.
Okay.
Hey, Chastity, can you make me co-host?
Absolutely.
For some reason, I can't see the list of breakout rooms.
Really?
Yeah.
It says you're already co-host.
Interesting.
Would you like me to make it?
Let's see. No, that's okay.
Okay, I did broadcast a message to everybody, so I'm not sure if
you did.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I can go check.
I don't think we've met yet. I'm Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy. Okay, I can turn my camera on now. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Going a little crazy over here. I forgot to press
jumping into the deep end. And I think we can stop recording now too, Chastity, if you want to stop.